For years, Houston has had a reputation of being a low cost of living metropolis. But in a post-COVID era where companies and people have chosen to relocate and stay, is that still true? Not necessarily. Yes, our average home prices are a few percentage points lower than the national average, and you might pay less at the gas pump and the grocery store. But the sticker shock is real when living in West Houston, and I'm going to give you the insider's guide with 5 ways to hack it. Hi, I'm Carolyn Bauerschlag, a local real estate agent helping people just like you relocate from all over our country right to our great city. And if you're thinking about making a move to the West Houston area, I would love to add you to our client family. Now, the first big hack is property taxes. So let's take a higher view here. Now, one of the big reasons that corporations, retirees, high-income earners alike love to move to Texas is because Texas is a no-income tax state. But the state can't just generate zero revenue, right? So they pick up their revenue off of sales tax and the big one, property taxes. So if you're a homeowner moving to the area, here's what you need to know to make sure you don't get spanked with a giant tax bill. Now, if you're moving to the west side of Houston, I want you to know that the average or midpoint of property taxes is probably somewhere around 2.6 to 2.8%. Now, that might be a massive sticker shock for you if you're relocating from out of state. The national average is 1% for property taxes, so this is a big deal in Houston, Texas. If you're purchasing a $500,000 home, you could probably expect very easily to pay $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 in property taxes. And it's not really hard to get to a $500,000 price point on the west side. Now, if you're considering new construction, which a lot of people relocating to the area do because they don't know anything about the area, I want you to know that property taxes are probably going to be even higher. It's very typical for us to see a 3 or 3.25 or a 3.5% property tax rate on new construction. And that very quickly translates then into a $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, $18,000 property tax bill. Now, there's wide variation there, and this tends to be confusing to people who are new to the area. So let me explain it for you. We have what's called municipal utility districts on the west side in our neighborhoods. So if you live inside of Houston, like inside the loop, generally speaking, you can basically get your water, sewer, and trash services from the city. But when you go outside of the city limits, which is kind of like a crazy zigzag polygon, what you're getting is municipal utility districts that are responsible for those same water, sewer, trash services, right? So as those services go in, as they're constructed, taxpayers have to pay off the debt associated with putting those services in place. So the older a neighborhood is, the longer people have paid off those MUD or municipal utility district bonds or debts. The newer a neighborhood is, the fewer people have paid on those debts. So in new construction neighborhoods, yes, you get everything that's shiny and new, but you are probably going to get a higher tax rate. What we've seen over time is that in order for the tax rate to move down in a meaningful way, it's probably going to be on an 8 to 10 year horizon. So if you're looking at a place that has a 3.3% tax rate, I would say reasonably, it's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 years before you see it drop below 3%. So I promised you some hacks. So here they are. The first is to not rule out resale. Resale homes are excellent on the west side of Houston. They are usually beautifully constructed and come with a lower property tax rate. More people have lived in those homes and paid off the MUD bonds associated with those debts for a longer period of time. The other hack to know is that Houston does come with a homestead exemption. Now, a homestead exemption is the state and the county sort of gift to you as the homeowner, where your tax basis is reduced by $140,000. So if you have a $500,000 house, your tax basis as a homeowner is reduced to $360,000. So we, as the agent, make sure that you file your homestead exemption in a timely manner so that you can benefit from those tax savings. There's additional savings too for folks that are seniors or for folks who have a VA rating disability. And so all of those things can add up, but it is important for you to know that property taxes are a significant part of your move. Now, the second major sticker shock that homeowners experience when relocating to the Houston area is insurance. Now, this has had Houstonians in a chokehold for the last couple of years. Gone are the days of us being able to obtain a 1% wind and hail deductible for a reasonable premium and enter 2 to 3% deductibles with giant premiums that more than doubled what we used to get. Now, this timeline is pretty compressed, and I, as a homeowner, got hit pretty hard with this. So pre-COVID, it was very easy for me personally to go get a 1% wind and hail deductible on my insurance policy and pay about $2,500 for that premium. And even just last year, 2024 into 2025, I got hit with a 3% wind and hail deductible, and it was going to cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,200. So put differently, if you imagine that you have a $500,000 house, if an insurable event happens, you're not in it for 1% or $5,000. These insurers want you to be in it for $10,000 or $15,000 before they give you a single dollar. Now, a natural question that everyone has is why? And the short answer is that Houston had too many once-in-a-lifetime events that happened kind of on an annual basis. Now, even if we just look 5 years back, in 2021, we had that crazy freeze where everyone's pipes burst across the Houston area. Then in 2022, we had another freeze that wasn't as bad, but still had insurance impacts. Then we had weird hailstorms. Then we had the derecho in 24. And then 2 months later comes Hurricane Beryl. And none of those things individually were quite that awful, but they caused a lot of property damage in particular areas of Houston. So what these insurers did is they said, Houston looks pretty high risk. It used to not be. And a lot of the carriers pulled out of the state entirely. And so the carriers that were left said, hey, this risk is now a lot higher for us. So they shifted a lot of that burden onto the homeowner. Now, the silver lining here is that some of these carriers are starting to come back. So even just within the last couple of months, I've paid some insurance premiums personally. And we did see a return to a 2% wind and hail deductible. And mercifully, my premiums did sort of start to come down by a few $100s. Now, a small footnote to add on to homeowners insurance is, of course, flood insurance. Houston in the last few years did not have any major flooding events, but nationally there were FEMA emergencies all over. And the National Flood Insurance Program is kind of who provides these policies, right? And so just in the last few years, we've seen FEMA policies go from, let's say, $500 for low flood risk premiums up to somewhere around $1,000. And the kicker on these is that you may not be getting the full coverage that you're really looking for. And those costs are just for optional flood insurance. So that's another fee that you need to put in your back pocket if you are considering insuring here in Houston. And I promised you a couple of hacks, right? So my first piece of advice is that you work with an insurance broker. An insurance broker is going to shop a bunch of different carriers, and they're not just going to go to the big names that advertise on TV. So in Houston, if you're moving to our area in 2026, you may find that you're going to get a better policy with better coverage for a lower premium and a better deductible with a name that maybe you don't recognize. I can tell you that I've personally picked up a few insurance policies through SageSure over the years, and they're not really a big brand, and I haven't had to make an insurance claim with them yet, but I can tell you that line item by line item, when I went through with a fine-tooth comb, the coverage was just as good or better than what was being quoted to me by these national brands. Another hack is that if you are considering flood insurance, I would consider going with a private carrier. This is another thing that we've done for a really long time. So I've insured through Neptune. And Neptune is a private carrier that has given us higher coverage limits than what the FEMA plans could offer. And the premiums were actually lower. So there are a few workarounds, but you want to make sure that you don't forego coverage in the name of having a lower premium only. Now, one of the third major costs that we run into here in Houston is going to be electricity. You're going to run your AC unit at least 10 months of that year, and so your usage may be higher than what you're used to. Now, the good news is that you are moving to the energy capital of the world, and that does have some benefits. The chief one that kind of surprises people is that you can choose the retailer or like the service end provider of who delivers your electricity. And what that means is that instead of you only being able to choose one carrier to charge you X amount for a kilowatt hour, you can shop on a website called powertochoose.org for all kinds of retail contracts. So you can have 6-month, 12-month, 18-month, 2-year contracts. You can have variable rates, fixed rates. It's kind of like choose your own adventure, right? What we've done as homeowners over the years is choose 12-month contracts with fixed rates. You'll see them say, oh, if you don't go over X amount of kilowatt hours, you'll get electricity for free. But those, they're done by business people, right? So they're going to hit you just exactly where you're going to bust whatever that limit is. So the hack for electricity usage here in Houston is going to be to use a service like Energy Ogre. Energy Ogre is about $12 a month, and this company will go and shop and engage in contracts with all of these electricity companies for you to ensure that you are getting the absolute best rate based on your usage every single month. I know a lot of people that swear by this, so if you're looking to save $1 there, that might be a good way to do it. Now, the fourth sort of area of concern for people relocating to the Houston area is going to be energy efficiency, right? So we just talked about the cost of your kilowatt usage per hour, but let's talk about the other side of that coin, which is how much are you using, right? So Houston homes are built pretty well to account for some of the swamp-like extremes that we get from a heat perspective. But those things really kick in for homes that are somewhat on the newer side. So the sweet spot that I kind of see people really gravitate towards is going to be a home that's built in the last 15 to 20 years. These are when we've seen key features and energy efficiency really roll out as building standards across the greater Houston area. So double pane windows, for instance, became standard in 2002, 2003. Tech shield or radiant barrier in your attic became something that was required in 2005, 6, and 7. Right. And then spray foam insulation, better thicknesses of blown insulation, what's being put inside your walls, the tech wrapping, all of that has really improved over the last 15 to 20 years. Now, that's not to say to not consider a home that wasn't built within the last 15 to 20 years, right? There's major things like your HVAC that can really influence the amount of electricity that you're using. HVACs are now built with variable speed units. My HVAC guy actually told me that these machines lose about 2% of their efficiency every single year. So if you're on the fence between, replacing a unit that's 15 years old or maybe waiting another year, keep in mind that according to him, you're going to pick up 30% of efficiency and therefore energy savings if you do choose to replace that AC unit. So these are the things that I'm watching out for you as a homeowner, and I want to help make sure that you don't get stuck carrying unnecessary costs. So what's the hack? Make sure that you don't just consider newer homes, but also homes that have been put on the ground within the last 15, 20 to 25 years. A really well cared for resale home can be just as good and as energy efficient as some of those newer homes. And the fifth major sticker shock that some people can encounter in Houston, Texas is what I like to call the tollway tax. If you're not familiar with Houston, you may be surprised to find how many toll roads we have. And the real kicker here is that those toll roads are often just managed lanes and are regular freeways. So we've got I-10, 290, 45, Grand Parkway, Bellway 8, West Park Toll. All of these have their own free and not free options whenever you're going out and driving. So you may find that when you're commuting that you run into quite a bit of traffic, and if push comes to shove, you're going to hop on that toll road. Well, that could very easily turn into $5 to $10 that you're paying each time or each way that you commute, right? And so you stack that on an annual year of commuting, you can very easily pay $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 just in tolls, right? And these toll companies, they charge you like $40 at a time, so you don't really notice it. But $40 on a time on your credit card every single week is a major drag on your overall budget. So what's the hack? I would say you need to be very careful about planning your commute according to where you live, right? So if you think that you're going, like your most direct route is going to be the West Park Toll and you're living in Fulshire, Richmond, or South Katy, make sure that you understand that that might be $5 in and $5 out. So adjust your budget accordingly. Or if you're really trying to manage a budget, I want you to make sure that you don't buy in a neighborhood that basically necessitates that every time you enter or exit the neighborhood that you get on a toll road, right? So these would be areas of the Grand Parkway or maybe the Fort Bend County Toll Road on the southwest side of Houston, right? Be strategic about the way in which you're searching for your home. If you're thinking about moving to the West Houston area, I would love to be your realtor. Make sure to check the description below for my contact information so that you and I can get in touch. And if you found value in this video here today, make sure to click the link below and subscribe because we put content like this out every single week. See you soon.